INEC had the guts, despite the fact, like a thief in the night, despite the fact that thousands of results are not even uploaded yet on the server. They went ahead to announce a winner. There was a simple contract. The contract was very, very simple. INEC went to Chatham House. They spoke here in Abuja, in Lagos, over 150 times or so. Yes. They promised Nigerians that the beavers will work. That's why Nigerians left diaspora within, young and old, got their PVCs. Only for us, when they saw that some parties are leading the APC, because the INEC chairman and APC have colluded, the next thing is they switched off the server. The beavers never worked. There was chaos everywhere. And INEC chairman, as the head of INEC, was the person who broke the peace accord. INEC themselves broke the peace accord. This is the wrongest generation to play with. I think the leadership of this country is yet to understand the kind of software that drives and runs the brains of this generation. We are not in the 60s. We are not in the 70s. And this cannot stand. The INEC chairman has to resign. If it means that the United Nations have to conduct a new election, it has to be. If the government have no money to conduct one, the Nigerian youth will raise the money. Will raise the money for the election. Will raise the money to fund INEC to be supervised by foreign bodies. Since it's a shame, we can't even conduct a simple election. It's a shame.
Earlier, I spoke to the national, the party spokesperson of Labour Party, Abayomi, and he told me that the party is distancing itself from this kind of protest, which they say they will seek. They will approach the court for justice. They say they are not part of this. They are not part of any violence, any protest, any rally in the nation's capital or across the country. What's your reaction to this?
For your information, this is not Labour Party gathering. This is a PDP man. This is ADC. That is NMPP. We are all here as Nigerians, not as Labour Party or PDP or ABGA. We are here as Nigerian citizens to fight for our rights. As simple as that. We are not here as PDP or Labour. We are here as Nigerians that came out to vote in our millions and we were raped in broad daylight. Without protection. It's a shame and a big disgrace.
Do you think there's a solution to this? Is this the solution?
We have just started. Our principals are doing what they need to do across different parties. This as Nigerian, I'm here as Isaac Balami and I am a Nigerian citizen. That is it.
Thank you very much. Your name again, please.
Hold on.
Your name.
Isaac Balami.
Okay, earlier you were talking about the Electoral Act. How Nigerian youth were under the scorching sun trying to ensure that this Electoral Act is passed into law. You said something earlier about that. Can you just repeat?
Now, I want us to Nigerians, may the soul of Atoye Ariyo Dare rest in peace. That was the man that fought tirelessly to have the electronic transmission. When APC in the National Assembly tried to remove smuggled electronic transmission out, Ariyo raised the alarm. And we all converged at the National Assembly, made sure they inserted it back, and made sure the Electoral Act was passed in 2022. Now, having secured that, we guaranteed every young person here, every young person abroad, that they can come back to Nigeria and cast their vote, and their votes would count. Because as they are casting their vote from their polling unit, they are transmitting the results to the INEC server. That was what we guaranteed them. Some of us guaranteed that would happen because we had fought for it. What is the INEC chairman telling us today? He cannot. He spent over 400 billion for clearing beavers, and he's telling us the beavers did not work. He will refund Nigeria that 400 billion, and then we will conduct the election for him and show him that young people, he should not listen. Let those that are listening now, let them listen very carefully. Nigerian youths are angry. The results they saw was a reflection of the anger of Nigerian youths. They should not push us to the wall. My people, melembe. They have not seen anything yet. When we start, they better go and correct that thing. That was not our vote. Nobody will steal the votes that we have suffered, put sweat and blood, Have you seen anybody celebrating anywhere? You think anybody will win an election? Anybody, and nobody is celebrating? They want to bring their people to come and celebrate. We are waiting for them. But let me tell you, nobody will steal what Nigerians have sacrificed, have sworn that this time around their votes. Look, let me tell you, in this election, people were going with money, and people will tell them, I want to vote my conscience. And people voted according to what they wanted. Yes. Now you want to deprive them of that.
Are you saying you keep occupying the Unity Fountain and all those
huge heist has happened in Nigeria. The greatest political robbery has just happened. And Nigerians think we will keep quiet. You steal our votes. You steal our freely exercised franchise, and we should keep quiet. Look. Even the policemen here are victims of the kind of government we have. Everybody here is a victim of the kind of governance we have suffered in the last 7 years. Now, we did not reward APC. No Nigerian rewarded APC. My name is Antonia Hilabo. I'm a lawyer. I'm a member of a political party, but right now I'm a Nigerian.
Now, there's this interest to London. A few hours earlier, will you like reaching out to the national chairman, which he told us that he was at that moment. But when you heard that and of course the strategic places in the nation's capital, he was able to say he should have gone back to their office in Otago, that he was going to bring it not only other leaders
All right, thank you very much, Funke, for that. Benga, so much to take away from that. Angry Nigerians protest.
Well, our laws recognize such rights, so the right to protest is a legitimate one.
And with what they said there, with what Funke or the protester this, I heard they said that the police people are also there. So that security operatives are there while they are protesting.
Yeah, the police will also do its own duties, at least so that those who are protesting will also not constitute threats to those who are also going about their own legitimate duties. Because as some people are protesting, we also have people who are also running for, not even jubilating, running after what they will eat for the day, how they are going to feed their family and all of that. So, like they say, your right to swing your arm anyhow should recognize my right to have a pointed nose, so that when you are swinging your arm does not hit my long nose.
But when your right stops, my own right begins.
That is exactly.
Okay, so thank you, Funke, for that. Let's quickly come back here to the studio. We have Dr. Sam Brima is still here.
Yes, he's our in-house analyst.
Then we have Dr.
Eze is also joining us.
We've been talking to doctors and professors in the last few days. Professors in the last few days.
Is of the civil society. That's
Eze is a lawyer.
He's a lawyer.
Right? And lead director of the Center for Social Justice.
For Social Justice.
Yes.
Yeah. The Center for Social Justice is a member of the Civil Society Coalition and the Civil Society Situation Room.
How many situation rooms?
I just wanted to be sure that you are part of the election.
How many situation rooms do you have?
We are in one.
Monitor elections, so let's move ahead.
Okay, so Eze is at home with all the issues as well. Maybe we should start with Dr. Brima.
Start with, yes.
Yes. Bring us up to speed with your data and what we have been able to input since yesterday.
Thank you very much, Benga. Thank you very much, Nancy. And hello, Nigerians. Barrister Eze, you're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
I'm very sorry. The numbers are all finally in, and they're not looking great. Over the last few days, since Friday, before the elections and during the elections, we're taking our viewers through different analytics. We went as far as to look at the history of elections since 1979. We looked at voter registration. We look at the ratio of election turnout or voter turnout to the number of voters, registered voters, and then coming forward to PVC collection and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, we tracked all the 36 states in the country, and the highest percentage we got in terms of voter turnout in relation to PVCs was in the neighborhood of 30 to 31%, and that is abysmally low. Now, if you look at votes by region, I think the highest turnout that we had is Northwest, followed by North Central, the Southwest, and then the Northeast, the Southeast, and then of course South. Now this picture becomes clearer when we come to this. This is what paints it out for you the most. Against the background of 93 million registered voters and against the background of 87 million collected PVCs, only 25 million accredited votes and 24 million actually voted at the end of the day, leaving a small, just slightly under 1 million rejected votes. Now, if our population is 200 million in that neighborhood, if it is indeed it's that, and you have just 24 million people who voted, that's just 24% of the entire population. Now, if this figure is right, total number of registered voters, let's even be generous and take it up to 100 million. That means only 24% of Nigerians actually voted in this election. That is abysmally low. And what we can understand is what the reason for it is. If you track the voting pattern since 1979, but particularly starting from 1999, the new dispensation, you begin to see that from 2015 coming forward is where perhaps some people have come here and said perhaps we're beginning to know the real true picture of how many voters we have in this country. Because when I hear that there was a massive turnout all the time, as a data person, I said, I don't see it. Where is it? And it is assumed that all the youths, you just said youths trooped out in their masses to vote. There's an assumption that is going on. All these youths who trooped out to vote voted in one direction or the other. There's no real way of knowing until we begin to get the data after the election and we begin to granularly analyze it to see, okay, what are the demographics of the ages that voted. But 94 million eligible voters and 24 million votes is abysmally low. It's abysmally low, and we hope that in the days to come we can begin to get answers to these questions and know why they turned out to be that way. But if you also come to our regional the votes according to geopolitical zones, you find out that Bauchi, for instance, had, the parties did so well.
Which are the zones again in terms of turnout?
In terms of turnout,
yes.
Let's come back here, and let's go back to west. North Central.
Northwest was the highest.
Northwest. Sorry, Northwest was the highest.
Okay.
With 6.5 million. And if you remember,
that is following tradition.
Yes. Because if you remember when we talked about total number of votes by highest number of votes registered by distribution, you find out that it was Katsina, Sokoto, and one other state from the northwest that had the highest number of turnouts. So it's still consistent with it.
That's the 3 case states.
Yes. Still consistent, still consistent. Northwest, consistently. Everywhere else, Lagos, that has 7 million voters and almost 6-point-something million PVCs collected. Registered just 1.3, just slightly under 1.4 million voters in the last election. In this current, the same thing in 2019.
Comparatively, it will seem as if the voters in the southeast actually showed more enthusiasm.
Absolutely.
This time around.
Absolutely. This time around. Yes.
Will it be because the southeast could be considered to, although the candidate says he wasn't campaigning. It wasn't a candidate based on ethnicity. But then the fact that somebody of Southeast extraction was in the race, and a big dog in the race for that matter. Would that be one factor? What we have observed is that to a great extent, Nigerians were still very primordial in our, a great number of us are still primordial in our voting behaviors. We're still, a great number of people are still locked into either, their geopolitical zones or their religious zone or those factors. But we observe that there's a big cut across this time around. I mean, Labour did spectacularly well, beyond the expectations of a lot of people, and they did well across the board, especially in the middle belt. Of course, this is the most recent election that we had, that you had a tripod of strong contenders. You had a candidate from the north, you had a candidate from the south, and you had a candidate from the east, which are traditionally your three major geopolitical zones before we added a few more flavors to them. So that played a very, very important role in it, where predominantly because of the candidate from the south, from the southeast, he got a lot of votes from there. But he didn't play that way for the southwest and for the north, because there were inroads made by the other contenders. The newest entrance into the race, which is the southeast, made inroad into southwest, made considerable inroad into the north, across, especially in the middle belt. Plateau, Nasarawa, spectacular showing, spectacular showing. But the ultimate thing is that this voter turnout is not very encouraging.
And with what I'm seeing now is being gradually decreasing. From 2015, 29 million voters, to 2019, 28 million, to 2023 now 24 million. What does this say really for an average Nigerian? Does it mean that we're not interested in elections, or does it mean that Nigerians are like, okay, it's them against us? Or does it mean that I'm not seeing the dividends of democracy, or what will they do for me? Why do I need to come out to vote? Talking of voter apathy, or let me just hold my voter's card for a means of identification, because there are a lot of Nigerians too that have collected their PVCs but did not even go out to vote. Some also did not go out to vote because they did not believe in the process. Some have also said from 2015 till now, it's same old, same old. So would you say potpourri of all this that I have listed? I wish I had an answer for you.
The safest answer I can give is that it is all of these things.
Because it's been gradually decreasing.
It is all of these things that you have said. I think we need to start doing a lot of polling in Nigeria just to get, what the temperature of this is about. But
we've been doing polling.
Yes, but if you look at it, 29 million in 2015, 28 million in 2019, 24 million in 2023. Somebody said yesterday that, okay, 2015 and 2019, you still had what were called incident forms.
Yes.
But tremendously, the introduction of card reader from 2015 coming forward, you can see the drastic reduction, 10 million between 2011 and 2015. It kind of controlled, the irregularities that have been in our elections. In 2014, it took it further because the BVAS system was a movement away from the traditional card readers, which went further to cut down on those excesses. So I think we're beginning to get a true picture of our actual voting patterns and voting behavior in this country. Now, I think I would expect that over the next 1 or 2 years, INEC will do a major cleanup of their voters register, so we can begin to have a true, because this 94 million for me, it's still an official data, but it's not real. People have died, people have moved, people have, more people have come in, more have gone out, so we don't have a clean register yet, but we must begin to continue to work with the data that we have. But 24 million seems to be our most realistic. We're coming to our roots, and we're seeing the best picture that we can have of our. The figures will actually notch up to almost 25 million, because if you have rejected votes of about 939,278, if you add it to the 24.9 million, absolutely, it's already almost absolutely, it's 25.8 million or so, or more.
So from okay, sorry,
yes,
go ahead.
25 point, just about say 26 million thereabouts.
Yeah.
But if you take out the rejected votes, which is not
which is
too
close
bad.
to 1 million.
Yeah, up close to 1,939,000. Then actual votes of 24 million compared to those.
Doctor, go back to that.
Which one?
Yes, this one, because this is where the interesting thing is.
Yes.
And I guess for political parties or for political gladiators or even for future elections,
Yes.
things like this should be studied. If you take a look at from 2011, 2011 is where we had the highest.
Yes. No, 2003, that was Obasanjo's second.
No, I'm seeing 73 million up to
in terms of registered voters.
in terms of registered voters, as in.
Okay, in the percentages.
Yes. What I'm trying to say is that from that 73 million in 2011, you had 39 million voters. That's where we've had at least from between 2003.
In excess of 50%.
Yes.
Yeah.
That means we've seen over 50% between 2003 and 2011.
Yeah.
So what happened between 2003 and 2011? Because for 2011, from my calculations here, it's 53.4%. So for 2003, that means it could even be more than 53. That is about 55, 56%.
There are so many possible explanations for it. And again, unless a study is actually conducted, you can't give an empirical answer to that. But there are so many answers that have been suggested. In 2015 was where we actually introduced card readers. And that helped a lot to mitigate overvoting. Not absolutely, because through the incident form, you could still pad up votes in that area, but it reduced drastically. Look at a drop of 10 million between 2011 and 2015. That's a lot, because there are people who traditionally always vote. They would always vote, and they account for the highest number of people who vote. But and then again, that pattern continued in 2019. You would expect that it would increase. You would expect that it will grow coming into 2023, but that's not the picture that we get. Just 24 million and change voted in 2024. Now, what are the reasons for that? It could be any number of things. Voter apathy could be part of it. I just can't be bothered could be part of it. With the way people were going out to collect their PVCs, I thought, wow, we're going to see.
And this is the year we've had the highest number of registered voters in history.
Oh, yeah.
This is the year. And this is also the year that we've almost had the lowest, apart from 1979, we had 17
in terms of percentages. Now, don't forget that the voter registration.
In terms of
yes. Now, don't forget that the number of the voter registration is cumulative. You just build on it. That's why I said, at least for us to begin to get something that looks like usable data. I'm sure I don't know if they've made an announcement to us, but I'm sure INEC is going to clean up their voter register, and then we can see in actual fact how many people. So from this graph,
if you see what have happened between 1999 and 2003, a lot of people returned to democratic rule. 1999, so you saw that 30 million voters were there. 2003, it went upside. 42 million. Was it bigger? Was it 2003? Was during Olusegun Obasanjo's second term. Then 2007 was the
one that brought Shehu Yaradua.
Then we had an uptick.
Then Jonathan, the Jonathan one. The Jonathan main election, because he inherited
Yaradua zone.
And then coming from 2015 was when we began to have a semblance of reality in the numbers that we have.
Okay, interesting data. And you know that Nigerians, I don't know if we will be taking data seriously now. Numbers.
Well,
we should because data and numbers they really this politics now.
We should all.
Tinubu has been announced as the president-elect. Why? Because it's on numbers. At the end of the day, it was collated 8.7 million, and we're having a census in the next few weeks.
No, I think it's after the elections.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. At least in the next few years, that's our next data, big data.
I think somebody even suggested if we can use biometrics one way or the other to do the elections, the census we'll probably have some semblance of reality in the census figures that we have.
But data is really critical. We need to know how many we are. We need to know things like this, and it will help us make better decisions.
Absolutely.
And better policies. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
much. Taking a break, I guess. Should we, producer? When we come back from the break, we'll continue our discussion with him. Do stay.
That I am the returning officer for the 2023 presidential election held on the 25th of February 2023. The election was contested. The candidates received the following votes. Obi Peter Gregory of the LP, 6,101,533. Abubakar Atiku of the PDP, 6,986.
All right, welcome back to the Nigeria Election Situation Room, live on Africa Independent Television. We'll be going live to a press conference where we're made to understand that the vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party will be speaking. Let's take that live event now. And when we return, we will continue with the Election Situation Room.
A new Nigeria, where immensely grateful to the youth, obedience, and all support groups, including Nigerians in diaspora, for their sacrifices, conduct, and commitment to a better Nigeria. It is our position that the purported result did not meet the minimum criteria of a transparent, free, and fair election. In addition to the most condemnable attacks, violence, voter intimidation, and suppression, the election was conducted in clear violation of agreed and promised INEC rules and guidelines, the Electoral Act 2002 as amended, and indeed the Nigerian Constitution. As evident, the institutions of the state and leaders that were supposed to ensure the sanctity of the election, again, and as in the past, collaborated and colluded to subvert the will of the good people of Nigeria. Please be assured of our determination to fight the injustice that have been perpetrated on Nigerians through all legal and peaceful means. While painful, we implore you all to please remain peaceful and calm, as our fight and determination for a new Nigeria is just beginning. We equally encourage you all to continue with the campaigns and vote massively for Labour Party in the forthcoming governorship and State's House of Assembly elections on 11th March 2023. Our principal, His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi, will in due course speak to you and indeed the nation. Thank you, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you.
A few questions.
So, Peter, thank you very much, sir. I have two questions, if my colleagues will permit me. The first one being, why isn't Mr. Obi addressing this press conference? I mean, we hear that he's...
This is a prelude to his addressing the nation. That answers your question.
Fair enough. Secondly, you're calling on your, you denounced the elections.
Yes.
You said they were not free and fair.
Yes.
Yet, you're calling for your supporters to go out en masse and vote in the next elections. I mean, isn't it the same process?
Until it happens, we don't know it. We cannot we cannot tell Nigerians not to vote, not to be part of Nigeria anymore. If you sit in your country and you don't vote, you don't belong to your country. Hi.
Hi, hello. Good afternoon. Thank you. You mentioned legal action. Can possible legal action? Could you detail?
No, certain legal action, not possible.
Okay, certain legal action. Could you, if it's certain, can you tell us more when exactly you're planning to go to court and on what grounds exactly?
We will go to court within the stipulated time. Within the stipulated time, and the legal team is at work already. And you'll get more details from His Excellency Peter Obi when he speaks to you. Like I said, this is a prelude to his own speech.
Right for the cabinet. John you were calling on supporters to go out and march on Saturday. Don't you have some fear for Lagos? Governorship election in Lagos. If the presidential election was what it was, how would the governorship be for your supporters?
As far as we're concerned, the Federal Republic of Nigeria and its institutions are in place and in effect. As far as we're concerned, we shall still continue to hold the Buhari administration to the promise of free and fair elections. That is the best that we know. Nigerians must, just like we're continuing the struggle, Nigerians must continue the struggle by exercising their rights.
Daily Dependent. Yes, Kingsley Daily Dependent. Many Nigerians believe, of course they have valid reasons to believe so, that the judiciary has been compromised, like other arms of government. How much confidence do you have that if your matter, if your case gets to the Supreme Court, you will get justice in return?
Irrespective of the low level of confidence you have in any system, your responsibility is your responsibility. Nigerians contested the 2023 presidential elections through Peter Obi and my humble self. We are going to keep the struggle alive, irrespective of the very low confidence we have in any system. We had extremely low confidence in the promise of the government that there will be free and fair elections, yet we went ahead. We went ahead into the elections. So it doesn't matter how low the confidence it is in the judiciary, the law is the law. And what's even, look, there's the confidence we have in them, and there is the confidence we have in ourselves and in our case. These are two different things. The confidence we have in ourselves and in our case is that elections, so to say, were not held, because from the polling units, the Electoral Act 2002 as amended provided the direct transmission of results. It is that direct transmission of results that says elections were held. They were not transmitted. What results are you giving? If there are no results, what election are you talking about? Now, going to the registration areas or ward collection units, no INEC returning officer, he or she, shall make entries without making reference to the existing ongoing concurrent IREV, active IREV, which did not exist. How did they collate? If there was no valid collation, what results are you talking about? If there are no results, what election are you talking about? Illegality has been performed. And as far as we're concerned, here is an incoming government for the Federal Republic of Nigeria that is illegal and unconstitutional. As far as we're concerned, it is now for we're submitting our case to the court of law. It is for them, irrespective of how much confidence the world or Africa or Nigerians have in them, irrespective, it is for them to show again that level of confidence.
Okay, any more?
Yes.
Please, let somebody else.
All right. My name is Beatrice Ozat from Voice of Nigeria. So Nigerians are worried against when you rejected this, when you reject the outcome of this election. Will you support them going to protest against this result?
Did you listen to my statement? And what really is the motive behind posing this question yet over again? If I may read it again, just for the records, which we will submit to you. While he's opening it, no amount of questioning will ever get Peter Obi or myself or any agent of the Labour Party or Obedient whatsoever to ever preach anything besides peace and tranquility in Nigeria. We also ask Nigerians to continue to exercise their civic duties like we just did now with the upcoming elections. I have said that democracy belongs to the people who can practice it. Nigerians should continue to make efforts to practice democracy. The only language we know is peace. That's the only language. If Nigerians are going to achieve peace through peaceful protests, welcome.
Okay. Any more? Okay, second round.
Just a very quick one. How is Mr. Peter Obi doing? In what state of mind is he right now?
He is better than one could ever imagine. He is cheerful. He is hearty, he is healthy, he is strong, and what is more, he and I are even believing more and more in Nigeria and the Nigerian people. Here we are. Our movement is less than 8 months old, and we won elections in the Federal Republic of Nigeria where they've had an 8-year concurrent government. As far as we are concerned, we won this. They refused to upload results. They refused to refer to IREV just for them to defeat us. It took a serving government, illegality and constitutional breach to defeat Peter Obi and my humble self. I tell you, we're winners. Nigerian people are winners. Nigerian people are winners. And Nigerian nation is waiting for a day that Peter Obi and myself will, through the rigors of illegality and unconstitutionality, get to power somehow one day.
Okay, I wanted to draw attention. Yesterday, the Senate debated on the issue of information. There was disagreement. Finally, the Senate President tried to redefine what they did in the Electoral Act, as it has to do with the transmission. That what they passed was not exactly to transmit from the polling units. That what they passed was to be done manually. I don't know whether it was redefining it.
I plead not to, the gentleman you're referring to, the Senate President, even though I'm I was a former senator, and believe in our integrity, this gentleman, as far as we're concerned, he contested presidency, and then now is an elected senator, returned by the Supreme Court, and you cannot contest 2 offices as far in the same election. You cannot. It is on record he contested presidency. Supreme Court now says he's senatorial candidate, and then he sits as Senate President to give us this kind of opinion. It is very, very difficult for me to say this, but I will have to say it. Such an irresponsible person must never be listened to.
Okay. If you don't mind, the last. Okay, the last. Again, Kingsley Daily Independence, because the People's Democratic Party agents, like your party agents and other party agents, walked out of ICC yesterday. Pardon me. They've been threatening fire and brimstone.
I don't know that. I don't know. No. I don't know that. I don't know that. I have never had any threat whatsoever since this began. I have never had any threat whatsoever, and anybody who is contemplating the use of such language will never face me or Peter Obi with such things.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah.
The question is, what is the plan? To team up with this other party?
No. We went into the elections as Labour Party. We won the election as Labour Party. We are going to claim our mandate as Labour Party, and we shall rescue Nigeria as Labour Party.
Okay. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Well, just so that our colleagues will understand the nature of the route, just introduce some people to the side of His Excellency. We have to his immediate left, the Director General of our campaign, Aki Oshitokun. Next to him as Alhaji Audi Mohammed, one of our party functionaries. Let me just come to this side. Obaze Oseloka, Ambassador Obaze Oseloka, he is the campaign manager. And then to his side, 2 former ministers, Fidele Njeze and
Nenadi Usman.
Esther Nenadi
Usman.
I think, well, very important. You see, as we are in this party, we are offering a new kind of leadership. If you look behind you, there, this is A senator-elect, a senator and then the senator-elect. Senator Victor Umbe. You see, this is the kind of leadership we want to offer. He just stands with everybody else. We are not saying, oh, distinguished, you must sit, you know, so this is how it is. So, Your Excellency, thank you very much. We appreciate your speech. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure many of you are just a phone call away. If we have any other thing to say, we'll get back to you. Yeah? Thanks for coming.
Okay. How are you, sir?
Sorry, ladies. They ran off in the hurry, so I couldn't get all of it down here.
What kind of work? Like goof?
Honorable, I've never introduced myself.
Yeah.
Haji Mutala.
Okay. Your father was a mentor to my husband. My late husband was
proceedings from one of such centers where the running mate of the Labour Party presidential candidate, Senator Dati Ahmed, addressed yet another press conference. On the use of that, you had some youths who had also massed at the popular Unity Fountain in the center of Abuja, downtown Abuja. Unity Fountain, yes, the central business area of Abuja, where they were also making some demands. But we are back here in the studio while still having our eyes on the International Conference Center, where the INEC is expected to hand over the certificate of return to the winner of Saturday's presidential election. That was announced yesterday early this morning by the chief returning officer.
Because a lot of Nigerians woke up to that news, because
yes,
not everyone did monitor what happened, but according
Labour Party, also a lawyer, Dr. Kenneth Okonkwo. Ken, good to see you. How are you? Ken, you might need to unmute. You need to unmute. We can't hear you here. All right, please tell him to unmute so that we can hear him here. But let's start the discussions with Eze Onyekpede here. First, let's get your... I'm not so sure whether you've been in the Nigerian election situation room since the end products.
Well, the end products should also be a product of all the proceedings that have happened in the last couple of days. A number of Nigerians, included those who contested, are not happy with the results. And of course, the right thing to do is to encourage them to gather their evidence and proceed to the lawful place where such grievances can be ventilated, which is the election tribunals and the courts.
That point cannot be made enough. You need to make it again.
Right. So that's where they should go. But that does not deter or stop Nigerians from exercising their right to peaceful assembly. I mean, this is peaceful assembly. I didn't say riots. I didn't say any other thing beyond what the Constitution has provided. You know, your right stops where my own, starts. So you can also march on the streets. You can also do other things in as much as you are within the contemplation of the law. But I think that the key challenge has been about processes and procedures that has led us to this point in time. And I want to clarify that the Electoral Act clearly gave the powers to make subsidiary legislation, rules and regulations and manuals to INEC, the umpire. I think that's section 148 of the Act.
Yes.
And in exercise of those powers, INEC had made the rules, regulations and guidelines for the conduct of the elections. And that is a subsidiary legislation. And the subsidiary legislation has virtually the same status as a principal legislation, in as much as it is not contradicting any section of the principal legislation. Even if you look at section 3612 on the right to fair hearing, which is a fundamental right, it states clearly that no one can be convicted of a crime unless it is set down in a written law. And written law includes acts of the National Assembly, laws of a state house or assembly, and subsidiary legislation and instruments made thereunder. So it is recognized as a source of law. So once you determine the validity of that subsidiary legislation by saying on which section of the law did INEC derive its power and authority to make that, and we are clear it's section 148. And then who actually made that subsidiary legislation? Was he authorized by the principal legislation to make that? And you come clear to say, yes, INEC was also authorized, and that you cannot delegate such subsidiary powers given to you, such powers to make subsidiary legislation. These are the rules in terms of what do you need to make a subsidiary legislation valid. Once you come to that conclusion that a subsidiary legislation was validly made, and you also get back to the Act to say Section 60, I think that's Section 60, subsection 5, which says transmission of the results shall be in a manner as prescribed by the commission. Okay? And then by making those regulations, they are prescribed the manner. So it is no longer at their discretion to act out of regulations that they made pursuant to powers given to them under Section 148 of the Electoral Act and under Section 65 of the Electoral Act. So I think this is the gravamen of the allegations that are being raised about non-compliance and how it has affected the election. And for some of us, we think that it is proper.
But would that be a substantive? Would that be a defense?
Well, that would be for the court to decide. But they are saying if you fail to report promptly,
if you fail to report
promptly,
and that's what I said. That if by failure as a polling officer, that didn't provide the for me to get to, that would be I'm going to conduct the exercise. That would be a defense for me.
I wouldn't know. I'm not the court. That would be your defense. It is up to the court to review
that,
and maybe drag in some more persons who have facilitated you are being late. So even breaching an official duty, if the official duty is that after the elections, transmit.
So if you fail to
breach it, Section 120 subsection 1 catches you 500,000 term of imprisonment or for 12 months or both. So somebody cannot be had to plead the violation of provisions in a subsidiary legislation which he or she or the organization made, and at the same time using it to deny other people their rights. So what has happened so far, you know, the opportunity to cross-check the results when you are doing with the one that is uploaded, and also what some of us have seen, you get to results in Imo State and see them coming from Zamfara or Plateau, you get to Plateau to see results coming. It doesn't show that this work was properly planned. It doesn't even bear out the mock tests that we have done or the simulations. And we need to remind Nigerians we are discussing money in excess of 300 billion. At a time, the country is undergoing economic and fiscal crisis. So we cannot simply spend this kind of money, right, and not get good results. So beyond even legalism, some of us who are interested in economic analysis want to ask for a value for money audit of what exactly we have done with the money given to INEC, because it appears that Nigerians don't even bother about how much INEC is spending. All we are interested in is, can they deliver? Can they give us free and credible elections? But this time around, since there's so much controversy, I think we should widen the net to find out what exactly was done with the billions that were voted for INEC.
We'll get to that point shortly. But like we introduced much earlier, that Dr. Kenneth Okonkwo is also one of our guests, except that he's joining us virtually. Dr. Okonkwo is a member of the Labour Party. He's also a lawyer. Okay, Ken, good to see you. How are you?
I'm blessed, and you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. First, give us your.
Please, sorry. I don't want to be addressed as a doctor or anything in Nigeria again. I'm Kenneth Okonkwo. I do not intend to go by any title again in Nigeria until such a time that Nigeria has become a new Nigeria. There is no title in Nigeria today that is honorable, by whatever name you call it, whether bishop, pastor, or doctor, or professor. I am Kenneth Okonkwo. So please, I want to be addressed like that. If you want to add anything, add Mr. so that people will know I'm a man.
Ken,
please proceed.
You earned this. This is not a honorary doctorate degree. You earned is a professional thing. So why are you throwing it on the altar? Why are you throwing it away? Something that you earned through your sweat. Why are you throwing it away on the altar of politics?
I am Kenneth Okonkwo.
Oh, okay.
Simple. You can add Mr. for people to know that I am a man.
Okay,
for now, until such a time that Nigeria becomes honorable enough to make people to be proud to bear any title.
Okay, Ken, good to see you, and welcome again to the election situation to the election situation room. Give us your view about what has happened. We have a president-elect now, as announced by the Electoral Commission. What is your pulse?
Well, I must be very honest. In the eyes of the law, there was no presidential election on the 25th of February 2023. None. In the eyes of the law. And I begin to tell you about the law. The law is very clear. In section 60, as how you will conduct an election. Now, let me leave other areas, as in you bring your PVC, you be accredited, you vote. Let me start from after your voting. The law says you will have to count and announce at the polling unit. Then, after announcing, he said you have to transfer the result in a manner that INEC has configured. And INEC has configured, and I'm quoting section 60, subsection 4(5) of the Electoral Act. And in clause 38 of the guidelines, INEC has made it clear it's going to be electronic transmission of result from the polling unit, not collation center. And the Electoral Act went further in section 60, subsection 6, that anybody that willfully contravenes this has committed an offense and is liable on conviction to the sum of 500,000 naira or at least 6 months in jail. Meaning, whoever contravenes this is an internationally recognizable electoral fraudster, no longer an INEC official, because the procedure is clear. The question now is, on the 25th of February, was there a counting, an announcement, and transmission or transfer of results of the presidential election? The answer is no. And let me say something about the beavers, because Nigerians have been deceived unnecessarily. The beavers worked perfectly, correctly. There was nothing in the beavers that was wrong. Why did I say so? You had 3 elections on the same day, 25th of February. The Senate, the House of Representatives, and the presidential election. How come the beavers worked very well during accreditation? How come it worked well in the Senate? How come it worked well in the House of Representatives? And then in the presidency, you say beavers, there was a glitch. The same machine conducting 3 results, 3 elections. No, there was no glitch. What you had was deliberate, willful manipulation of the divers by the INEC officials, officials to declare Bola Tinubu the president. Nothing else. And why do I say so? In section 64 of the Electoral Act, from subsection 4, he said, you cannot collect, you cannot announce when you are collating, except, in other words, he used the word subject to verification and confirmation with the accredited, the list of accredited voters as specified in the beavers, and the list of the votes as recorded by the beavers. These are the things you have to collate on. So whenever you're collating, you cannot collate or announce except you verify and confirm the correctness, the consistency of whatever you're collating or announcing with what is already in the beavers. What were you confirming it? Because there was no uploaded result of the presidential election in the beavers by your own admission. So eventually, you went and announced a result which Nigerians have not seen or known, because the whole idea of electronic transmission of results The whole idea is that before collation, every Nigerian citizen would have had the result. Now, INEC was uploading in IREF portal the hard copy of every result of the polling unit, even before the electronic transmission of result. How come they did not do it this time? When we spent 305 billion naira, this is the worst election that has ever been held, presidential election. And Professor Mahmood will go down in history as the worst chief electoral officer of this nation. So it is very clear. The law was not held. What would they have done? You go back to section 24, which said if any emergency arose during the election, then INEC will suspend the election and announce another date and hold the election. So if there is a glitch that will stop you from transmitting the result, that is a fundamental issue in the law. As a matter of fact, the whole Electoral Act 2022 was predicated on the electronic transmission of result. Recall that when they amended the act and they did not include the electronic transmission of result, Nigerians unanimously rejected the act, and the president had to veto it. And the National Assembly now even gave INEC more power than electronic transmission of result. They said, we will give INEC the latitude in case in future a new technology appears, they can do it without recourse to the National Assembly. So BVAS worked perfectly well. Do you see anybody complaining about the senatorial election or House of Representatives election? How come that the presidency is what they're complaining? Because there was no election as long as the presidential election was concerned. Because anything you don't do in accordance with the law presumes you a criminal. So what is remaining is for all those INEC officials that were involved in this fraud, from Professor Mahmood to be arrested, investigated, and prosecuted, and sent to jail. Do you know that today, they have not shown us the IREF portal that has all the results. So what they are planning now is they will use the collated results, they will go back and know whether they can start feeding it in to rhyme with their manufactured results so that they can tell Nigeria. Because the process is that you cannot collate and announce until you verify and confirm using the BVAS, the accredited voters, then the number of votes which BVAS recorded, the result. So, but now what they're doing is to use the manually generated collated figures to go and start feeding in the BVAS. This is more than 72 hours after the election. And the whole idea of Electoral Act 2022 is that Nigerians will have the result before you start collation. Collation was to be mere formality, just to add the results from different locations, which Nigerians already have, because you have no business transferring results from collation center. No business at all. It's from the polling unit. So there was no election, no presidential election on 25th of February. And it's good that Nigerians should know that. Okay. So when INEC is ready, they will conduct a...
Have you landed now so that we can ask, so that we can engage some of the things you have said? Can you hear me?
Yes. I've landed because I know that you people are going for, so that you can, cross-examine.
Let's start from the process for the election. Don't you think you omitted something very crucial when you were stating the process? For instance, when voting ends in a polling unit and it is counted, the result is entered first of all in a result sheet, right?
Yes.
The next stage is that agents of political party who are at the polling units are giving copies of the result. Then the polling officer proceeds to use the BVAS machine to capture the result. And it is what he has captured, which he has given to party agents, that he sends to the portal, isn't it? Isn't that the process?
Exactly.
So,
it was
so,
not
so before
there was a glitch.
So before the result is uploaded, party agents and political parties already have what the result is at polling units. I want to assume
telling you that the party agents do not have the right to collate. They do not have the right to announce.
Ken, you are not listening to me.
So what
Ken, you are not listening to me.
If you remember what I was telling you.
Ken, please let me ask the question.
From after that, nothing happened again in accordance with the law.
Ken, so you have not listened to me.
Remaining process at all. So the party agents do not have the right, and they will even tell you don't have the right to announce the result. They should stop announcing fake results. Meanwhile, they are the ones that have fake results because they did not upload it in the portal. What we are talking now is electronic transmission, not manual. So that hard copy that the agent has, even if he presents it in court, the rule, the law says it has to be made subject to verification on what was uploaded in the beavers before they can even collate and announce. So as long as that announcement, that transmission did not happen in the polling unit, in the eyes of the law, there was no election.
Okay. Can I ask a question now? Can I ask a follow-up question? I am sure as a lawyer.
Hello?
Yes, Ken. I'm sure as a lawyer you have been involved in some election petition cases. And you will know that in decided election petition cases, the tribunals and the courts have heard that the foundation for an election petition is anchored on results generated from polling units. I'm sure you are aware of that.
Thank you very much.
That is
not on collation center.
Good.
There was no result.
Ken, you are not allowing me to ask you questions properly.
Okay, are you asking? Go ahead.
Yes, the question I'm asking is that you are aware that the foundation for anchor 176,000 polling agents cutting across all the polling agents where election took place or where election was having that primary evidence, which is the results from the polling unit, and the result that the polling officer snapped
in law. You would have to tender the evidence, certified through copy of the evidence, because the court will want to be sure that the copy the agent is producing is correct. So even if you have your own copy, INEC has to certify it one way or the other for it to have real force of the law. And now that was the mischief that the Electoral Act 2022 wanted to solve. So now, what we are saying is that even if the agent presents any copy, the only way to verify it, the only way to confirm its correctness or consistency is by what beavers recorded. That is the new thing about the Electoral Act. And by what was announced and transferred on the day of election. So even if you, the agent, the court must take cognizance of the beavers. So because it was not announced from the polling unit, it was not transferred, it is void ab initio, because there is no room in the law to transfer any result or announce it in the collation center. What you do in collation center is add. That's the only reason for collation center now, not to announce results or this. Then when you have finished adding, that's ceremonial. Before announcing a winner, Nigerians already have it. So by Professor Mahmood, because he is the chief returning officer, not verifying publicly, not confirming, and that is the position of law section 64, subsection 4. Subject to. He said, the collation officer or returning officer shall collate and announce, subject to verification and confirmation with what is recorded in the beavers, the accredited voters, and the votes in the beavers. So, and he said, if you do it, you are a criminal. It's a criminal offense for which you should send to jail. Now, Professor Mahmood announced a result that he cooked up in front of the whole Nigeria without verifying it, the authenticity, the correctness, and consistency with it, with what is in papers.
Ken.
And if he does not do it, he has become an international recognizable electoral fraudster by the Electoral Act. So the question is, did he do it? Yes, he announced result without collating and announcing it, subject to verifying and confirming the authenticity with what is in the beavers. I didn't even see one beavers there. Somebody in the electoral in the collation center pointed out, sir, can you place on your signboard or on your TV, please, what the beavers have, so that you would test the authenticity of this, which none of us, the agent, has, and which we should have. So what I would have had if I was there was the uploaded result by INEC in their iRev and in their portal, which they gave all of us link. So you will now confirm whether what you have is what is being announced, what is being collated. And openly, Professor Mahmood openly disregarded this law. And I was very embarrassed when some senior lawyers.
Ken, can you just pause for a moment and
then was to uphold the rule of law, to uphold the process of the law, not to tell somebody that is threatening somebody. And that
I don't know whether he has stopped, because he needs to stop talking so that he can listen to the question I want to ask him.
Okay.
If he keeps talking, he won't hear the question.
Sorry,
so I need to know, Ken, are you ready for me to ask you a question now?
Go ahead.
Ken.
Go ahead. I wasn't hearing you before. Go ahead.
Yes, I can hear you.
I just heard
you. You can hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you now.
All right. Let me take you to section 64 that you have been referring to. I'll read it out to you, so that you then respond to it. Are you ready? I'm going to read section 64. I'm going to read section 64, subsection 5 and 6 to you of the Electoral Act.
Subsection 64, subsection 4.
Okay. I will start from 4. I will start from 4.
Oh, the summary.
I will start from 4 because that section doesn't end with 4.
But before then, sorry, if you can read section 60, subsection 4 and 5 and 6. Section 60, subsection 4, 5 and 6.
Section on section 60. You section on section 60. You say I should read 4 and 5, huh?
Yes, subsection 4, 5, 6.
4, 5 and 6. I'm starting with 4. And the section 60, by the way, is counting of votes and forms. It says the preside. I'm on 4.
Go ahead. Go ahead to subsection 4 from section 60, so that we don't waste time. Yeah, go ahead. Section 60, subsection 4, 5, 6. Read.
Yes, Ken. Section 60, subsection 4. First of all, before we go, Ken, let me caution you a little bit. Professor Mahmood is not on this platform. He's not on this platform. He's also a public officer. It is not allowed for us to allow you to call a public officer names, particularly when it's not on the same platform with you, to respond. So please, I will enjoy you not to refer to anybody as a criminal or as committing crime. You are not a court of law. You cannot here pronounce somebody a criminal. Is that taken?
Okay.
Good.
All right. Before I respond to what you're saying, let us read the let's read the law first. It is the law.
Please,
and
before
then
we read the law, please listen to me. Listen to me. You cannot lead us to trouble. You are trying to lead us on the path that is not right. Ken, please, first of all, take it back that nobody is a criminal. You have to take that back first before we continue. You have to take it back and apologize before we continue.
First of all, Benga, wait. First of all, and I am talking now as a lawyer, when you catch somebody on doing a crime, by law, you have the right to say this person committed an offense. But the difference is that you will not be sent to jail or penalized except the court says so. Ken, I said read the law.
Ken, I insist that you cannot.
The crime. I have the right to say he committed the crime.
Ken, I insist that you are not a court of law and you cannot, you as Ken, a lawyer, pronounce somebody a criminal on the live program.
Read the law. Read the law. Read the law. If the law from what he did, because he did it openly.
You cannnot pronounce somebody a criminal by you
if you don't want to read the law, then
an individual and to take back your words calling the INEC chairman a criminal. Please take that back. You cannot
an offense. So what you will do is read.
Is that your position now? Because that will be better. But you outrightly pronounced him a criminal in the first instance, which was why I said you have to take that.
Welcome back. You're still on to the Nigeria election situation room. Before we went on a break, we did tell you that we have Barrister Onyekpere here, and I want you to weigh in because you were actually here earlier, of course, just a few seconds ago when we saw the discussion between Kenneth Okonkwo and my colleague here. But I would really like you to weigh in because the bone of contention, what's your view about this?
Well, I think we should ask ourselves, one of the rules of interpretation of statutes is called the mischief rule of interpretation. You look at the law before the enactment of the new provision, and you ask yourself, what was the mischief in the existing law for which this new provision seeks to suppress the mischief by advancing a remedy through the new provision? And that is the light and the context with which I'm looking at this issue of electronic transmission of results. If you recall, it was a very topical issue during the consideration and enactment of the 2022 Electoral Act. It was a very contentious issue. Some people didn't want it, some men in civil society, including even INEC, we are all going for it. So you cannot simply bypass that innovation and do something totally different and expect that people will not complain, especially those who thought they will benefit from the new provision. So based on that, even if the agents at the polling booths already have the results which is signed and shared out to them, it is still INEC that has that final authority to say this is the genuine result. And what this provision sought to do was that there were always complaints that it doesn't really, the challenge doesn't really stem from the polling booth or the unit where everybody will see count 1, 2, 3 to 500 and say APC this, PDP this, everybody agrees and signs off. That it is when it starts walking up to the collation center, then the crowd will have dispersed. 1 or 2 persons are getting it there. At the collation center, nobody is there except a few authorized persons, and it will be easy to manipulate them either through bribery or through any conspiracy. So that was the reason why they said, push this thing to that portal. And that portal is available to every Nigerian. The beauty of the best way to fight corruption, the best way to fight crime or subversion of the system is transparency. You know, I know it. She knows I know it. I know what she knows. So when all of us, 100 of us, have the same facts available to us,
no one person cannot manipulate.
So if I come out and begin to get a different version, it will be, what is happening? You look at your document, she will look at her document and say, no, brother, don't do that. So it is that failure which is causing this havoc, which is causing all these allegations, insinuations, because if you were supposed to, if you come into the room with your hand clutched, and it's being alleged, or cupped your hand, it's being alleged that you are holding the equivalent of $1 million. You don't need to begin an argument whether you are holding one or you are not holding anything. Once you do your hand like this, it solves all the problem. Now, when Nigerians saw that after 2:30, when some polling units were closing, although some extended up till almost the following day, the expectation was that as it is uploading as the polling booth is closing, the expectation was that from 2:30, 34, results will be gradually going up. I think it wasn't up till 9 o'clock or thereabout that the first one started trickling in. Even by the time they started announcing the results, not up to 50% has actually come in. And this is where the suspicion all arises from. If this was what was happening before and we said, no, this time, put this food in the middle, where everybody will see it. We gather around the room so that it wouldn't be nobody will say Abwenga has taken one meat. And before we start eating, it will be counted. I say there are 5 pieces of meat and there are 5 of us. So everybody must collect one. So whatever story you tell, once I have not collected, there's no way I will agree.
Okay, do you believe that if there is an infraction of this process, going by the provisions of Section 64, the whole of Section 64,
yes,
that there are remedies? Let me tell when the presidential election results were being collated in Lagos, for instance,
the
Labour Party agent
were there
at the state collation point.
Were there.
This was a result that had been collated from ward to local government and then to the state.
Yeah.
It was at the state level, state collation level, when the result was being collated, that the Labour Party collation agent raised an objection that some of the, I think two, I can't remember how many,
units.
Of the polling unit results that emanated from polling units did not tally, that the figures they have did not tally with what the collation officer just read out. And there was an argument. And the lady, the collation, the agent insisted, and other parties also corroborated that the result they have tally with that of Labour Party, but doesn't tally with the figure that the collation agent was. The collation agent was forced to adjourn and listen to all of them and agree that yes, you people are right. Invoking the powers of this section 64 sub 6 that I hereby cancel this result, and she cancelled those results on the spot. That's why I want you to read that section and see whether, even if the results were not uploaded, whether there are no remedies for it, whether at every collation point you cannot remedy whatever wrong has happened at any point.
Now, it says that where during collation of results,
yes,
there is a dispute regarding, or returning officer shall use the following to determine the correctness of the disputed result. The original of the disputed collation result for each polling unit where the election is disputed.
Exactly.
The smart card reader or other technology used for accreditation of voters in each polling unit where the election is disputed for the purpose of obtaining accreditation data directly from the smart card reader or technology.
Yes.
Then data of accreditation record and transmitted directly from each polling unit. The votes are resolved. Now, let me explain. This provision is when at the collation center, right?
Yes.
There is a dispute.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Now, it does not in any way countermand the provision that says
you shall upload.
You shall upload. It didn't say because we have this, don't upload. And that uploading is a mandatory requirement. It's not discretional. The law says INEC transfers or transmission shall be as to be determined by the commission.
INEC, yes.
So they were given that power, recognizing that they are the sector experts. What you can do in a law, if you were to write all the guidelines, the Electoral Act could possibly be 1,000 pages.
Has that provision eliminated the manual collation that is also envisaged here?
No.
It has
Hold on. What it introduces is transparency. Now, you go ahead and do your manual collation. But before you do, put everything so that as you are collating, you are on trial. Because somebody else in the privacy of his room, he doesn't even need to come to AIT or channels, can just stay in his room with his computer once he has access to the net, and will be doing his own tabulation, and he has if he's competent in using of Excel sheet or even a calculator,
he can get his
so he is doing his own tabulation. Justice must not only be done, but manifestly, what is the opinion of the ordinary citizen, good Joe who is doing cutting grass, or else a neighbor who is walking by and eavesdropping?
That was the Joe the plumber.
No. What is my opinion about the process or procedure? So that was why you said, as you do your own,
yes,
we are also doing our own. Now, when you deliberately stop us from watching you, they said, when you are doing this thing, Benga, don't close your window. Whatever you are doing, we are interested in knowing what you are doing inside your room.
Interested in what I'm
doing. No, hold on.
I should not
close your room. Because that AIT office is not your personal room. It's an AIT office. They say, Benga, we know you. You are a little bit mysterious. Don't close that window so that your producer and the organ of AIT can be oversighting you. Yeah. And as soon as you enter Benga, you close the window. You have raised a function that you wanted to do that thing we asked you not to do. Do you understand what is happening? And no matter you people, he got angry. He made one point, which stuck with me. And is that 3 elections were held on the same day. And as you came to vote, everything was done at once. Am I right?
Yes.
So how come the one for House of Reps?
For 2 others.
No, House of Reps.
They were all uploaded.
Boom, it goes.
Yeah.
Senate. It goes. As soon as he came to presidential, Once you click presidential, that beavers or whatever process now developed a fault. My brother, you know, the point is that people can get emotional and angry, but the truth is that there are a lot of unanswered questions. And it is only the umpire who made these rules. You know where even there is some level of anger. If it was imposed on the umpire by somebody else, the umpire was given the discretion to make the rules. And the umpire made these rules. And I watched one of these interviews where people asked sometime in November at a press briefing, sir, there are rumors that you will not use this system. Others, it remained for him to take an oath. So that is what is causing this anger. Okay? And the law is clear that any violation of the process and procedure has penal sanctions. Unfortunately, it's like we are asking those who believe that what he did is right, that Attorney General believes that what he did is right. So who is going to prosecute him? The IGP, who should compile investigations, will also believe that what he's done is right. You watch a viral clip where a known Nigerian who chairs Parks and Gardens in Lagos State, everybody knows his face. It's not an allegation. So in the presence of police, people are petitioning, probably the police simply said, we are investigating. You don't need an investigation simply to call in the police officer you posted there, because this threat was being made, including an ethnic slur, before him. So in such circumstance, it's easy. But what is making Nigerians annoyed is that nobody has been arrested. Nobody is going to be prosecuted. Even like we said, the president committed an offense by that thing he did, but you cannot arrest or prosecute him because he enjoys immunity from suit and legal process.
Okay.
But that immunity has now been converted to impunity. Attorney General himself too did the same thing. Who should be telling His Excellency to say, sir, please don't do this again?
Okay. We'll come back to you. We have Kenneth Okonkwo. We still have Kenneth Okonkwo here, a member of the Labour Party. Hello, Kenneth, again. Can you hear me now?
Hello, Nancy.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
I think I prefer your beautiful face to Benga's rocky face.
Both of you have
mentioned it. So what the law says is, if you breach all these things, you have committed an offense. So what I was just trying to say is that since we watched it, the whole Nigerians watched it, that INEC has committed an offense. And when you say INEC in the